The Olympic Games are the biggest sporting spectacle on the planet, uniting various sports into one mega event, a festival or celebration of human achievement. But does the Olympics really need to have football in its sports program, especially given football's place in world sports as the number one for the most watched sport? It does seem like a bit of an outlier given the smaller sports to football that have a major platform at the Games, which football doesn't need. The Olympics is actually the world's oldest international football competition, starting at the second Olympiad in Paris in 1900. This is, of course, for men only, and it means that Olympic football predates the founding of football's world governing body FIFA by 4 years. Great Britain won gold in that first Olympic football tournament, represented by the London club Upton Park beating Club Français, representing France, in the final. Since 1900, football has been included at every Olympic Games except the 1932 Games in Los Angeles because of FIFA's desire to start a World Cup and requested the sport be withdrawn from the Olympics. It was only brought back in 1936 by the Germans and controversially won by the Italians. In its early years, the Olympic football was dominated by Team GB until the rise of Uruguay and the first World Cup. When professionalism came into the game, Olympic football became a largely amateur affair, which allowed Eastern Bloc and communist countries like the Soviet Union to dominate as their best players largely kept amateur status but were state-sponsored. FIFA, not wanting the Olympics to rival the World Cup, allowed non-UEFA and CONMEBOL nations to field their strongest teams until Barcelona 1992, where the under-23 rule came into being, which is still currently used and only allows 3 players to be over the age of 23. The women's side of the game was not first played at the Olympics until Atlanta in 1996, where full-strength teams could be selected, which is still the case today. As stated previously, football is the world's biggest sport, and considering the Olympics is somewhat of a mecca of smaller sports in such as swimming, equestrian and track cycling, football is an outlier in which that it does not need the Olympic exposure, and with the lack of big names at the Olympic football tournament, no one really watches it, with the biggest name being this year arguably Brazil and Everton's Richarlison. The Olympics is also awkward for the footballing calendar as it comes after 2 major tournaments, especially this year with the 2 tournaments being the Euros and the Copa America, and the Olympic final is on the same weekend as the start of the EFL season and the Charity Shield. With a plethora of football to watch and to play, is an Olympic gold medal as valuable as, say, winning a World Cup, a Champions League or a Premier League medal? Some would argue no. It is also hard to define what the Olympic football tournament is meant to be other than FIFA's afterthought. Is it a youth tournament to show people the players of the future, or a walkover for teams like Germany to beat Fiji 10-0? If the Olympic men's football tournament is hard to define, what about the women's side of the game? Well, women's football is seen as far more important, especially to the United States Olympic team. But as the women's game keeps growing and FIFA starts to make more money from it, will they eventually turn around and put the same ambiguity that affects the men's game on the women's Olympic football tournament? The reason Olympic football is ambiguous is because it works for FIFA in protecting their pockets, because no one is going to watch players that for the most part they've never heard of, and where countries like Belgium and the Netherlands have only featured once in 70 years, and Italy have snubbed the tournament ever since 2008. To conclude, Olympic football is such an afterthought that it starts before the actual event, but isn't even broadcast on free-to-air television until the opening ceremony starts. That's around 3 or 4 days after the preliminary football matches take place. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. We publish our highlights of our live streams here on our YouTube channel. But if you want to go watch our live streams Saturdays at 7 p.m. during the Premier League season, it's twitch.tv/The Football Fan Show, and we will see you there.